Hello and good morning to all our viewers who was watching on BBTV. My name is Mohana, and this morning we've got a very special guest who's going to be joining us to discuss the topic, the future of political parties, frequent elections and its impact on Malaysia. Now, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce Malaysia's 4th and 7th Prime Minister and the current Member of Parliament for Langkawi. Ladies and gentlemen, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Good morning and welcome to our segment 2.
Morning.
So welcome to Big Live, where I have conversations about political affairs and the local affairs and the current thing that's ongoing in Malaysia, and usually have conversations like this with the leaders of the country and leaders of industries. So without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into the question that is currently being hotly debated about or talked about. In your opinion, is the anti-party hopping bill or law a foolproof measure to stop the political frogs?
It can be so structured that it will stop party hopping. But of course, it will affect other activities as well. For example, if after an election, no party achieves a majority, then there needs to be a coalition or for another party to join the biggest party. So whether we call that as hopping or not depends on the law. The law must be very clear as to what is meant by party hopping.
Okay, so do you suggest or do you think what would be better, to amend the constitution or to introduce the bill or party hopping law, or for political parties to actually amend their political constituency, for political, their own perlembagaan, to disallow or to ban or bar members from carrying out such duties? Because if, like you just said, if what you just said is what is going to be the case and the scenario, then this bill is going to be redundant if discussed in Parliament, don't you think?
Well, if there are multiple parties and no one has a good majority, there is a need for the parties to come together, and that should not be regarded as party hopping. But if after the government has been formed and then some parties decide to leave the government because they don't agree with policies and the like, that would be party hopping. Because if a number of members of the government were to hop, the government would collapse. And this means that there can be governments which gain power without going through the process of election, just through hopping and getting a sufficient number of members.
Okay, so now I want to move on to a different subject, also regarding the politics of Malaysia. Okay, do you think, from your opinion, once again, generally speaking, do you think the installations of 4 deputy prime ministers from different races of Malaysia will actually lift the roadblock towards a unity government? That means 4 DPMs can be it has to be a Chinese, Indian, line, and what do you think?
It means that we are going to emphasize the racial differences. You have to have a person from each race represented in the government at the highest level. So it works against unity. Actually, when you have a prime minister, he should be accepted by all communities. He is a prime minister for the country. But if you start splitting the deputy prime minister into various, representing various race, what you are saying is that we want to continue to have representation based on race. And that will, I think, act against unity.
Okay, but since you mentioned that it does, of course it does, if we were to do like how I had suggested, that it does go against unity, but does that not also, don't we also not already have existing political parties who are race-based and are divided, and they only come together when it's for election purposes or to form a government. So why not? It's a catch-22. So why not?
Such an arrangement makes the government very friable. It is subject to threats of parties wanting to withdraw support, etc. So it is unstable. It's not a stable arrangement.
Understand. That was very clear, crisp, because of course we will not be able to be strong if there are someone who's going to be pulling strings based on race card. So thank you, Tun, for your answer on that. That answers the question that we will never be able to have different deputy prime ministers from different races. Thank you. And now, Tun, on the recent election that just ended in Malacca, what are your thoughts, and what was going on in your mind when that had happened, and what were your thoughts with the results?
Well, at first I thought that the winning party, BN, is elected because of the people of Malacca wanted this party as a government. But it turns out that the margin of victory for the BN is very narrow. It may be because people do not, they cannot really predict who would get the most number of votes. So they may think that they are not voting for a BN government, but it turns out that everybody thinks in the same way, and they voted for BN, and that happened. I don't think that in a general election, what happens in Malacca will be reflected in the general election.
Okay, so you are saying that everybody thought the same, and everybody thought that each other will be carrying out their responsibility, and they just neglected their own responsibility. I actually met with a couple of people who refused to go out and vote because they told me, and this I share with you, Tun, that this was actually a truck driver. It's a garbage truck driver. He's a Malay man in his late 40s, and he said that his entire family did not go out and vote. And let me quote him, he said, "Kita undi diorang senang. Kita masih merana. Jadi, saya satu keluarga tak keluar mengundi dek, buat apa saya nak undi?" I just asked him because he didn't have an ink on his finger. So that's what he said. So this is what the voice on the ground was in Malacca, because we spoke to quite a bit of people when we were there, and from different races, different backgrounds and all that. And some are business owners, some are, like I told you, like gig economy workers also. They all said the same thing, be it PH or Barisan Nasional, we just don't want to vote because we are fed up. Of course, they told me this in different languages when I spoke with them. But this is what it is, the sentiment on the ground. To what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it is dangerous to think like that, because when you decide not to vote, you are actually voting for the worst party. Because the worst party, their own supporters will come out. They will pay money to the supporters to come out and vote. Those who are against the money corruption and all that, they will not come out. So the end result would be not the best party would win, but the worst party would win.
Okay, so it's basically opening up the doors for the culprits to come in and just take whatever you have in your house instead of locking it up and keeping it safe. So, Tun, will this be a good advice for the Sarawak state election then, that you are encouraging people to make sure they go out and fulfill their roles as a citizen?
Yeah, they must show their responsibility. Of course, these are different circumstances because of the pandemic, but otherwise, people should seriously think about electing their leaders and giving them a good majority. Because if you don't give a good majority, if the winning party only has a small majority, or even less than enough to give in the government, then there will be a lot of bargaining and all that. And all this thing does not contribute towards stability. It is not the issues that become central. It is about people wanting to be in the government and to have the power of government. what they want to do with that power is something that may not reflect the wishes of the people.
Okay, got it, Tun. Thank you. Thank you again for your answer. Now, Tun, what are your predictions for the Sarawak state elections? I know you are not a man who would do predictions on matters like this, but I don't see Pajuang anywhere near the spectrum for now, so that's why we're asking, what are your predictions for Sarawak state elections?
Sarawak, from the very beginning, has shown that they are not united. At one time, an emergency was declared in order to get a more permanent chief minister. But they are very much divided between the Ibans and other tribes and all that. They're not united. And then we have the Malays, we have the Chinese there. As usual, the Chinese control the towns. So in the end, the Sarawak election will not produce a government, a party that has a majority to form the government. So we would like to see how they will manage that, because all the parties contesting will not get sufficient number of seats to form the government. They have to work with some other party.
Okay, so now to the crunch time question. Will Pajuang be participating or assisting anywhere in Sarawak state elections?
No, we are not going to contest. We are focusing more on the 15th general election. This election, of course, is necessary because it has to fulfill certain legal requirement. But in the case of Malacca, it was totally unnecessary. Whatever happens in Sarawak, it is the concern of the state. They are voting, they are having an election to have a state government. What they want in terms of the national government is not reflected here. There may be local issues that influence the people.
Okay, so it's final. Pajuang is not going anywhere near the Sarawak state elections. And is that what you're saying too?
Yes, we are not going there.
Okay, so if that's the case, then I would like to move forward for the 15th general election that Pajuang is focusing on. And I've watched your previous interviews, and you had said that when the interviewer asked the question, and you had said that if the people are going to force you, your followers or your friends and those who are important people are going to force you to run, you said you're going to run for parliament. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would like to retire. I would like to leave, to get out of politics. But my party demands that I should participate in some way. Maybe I will contest, but not become the prime minister.
Okay, because I was just going to follow up and ask, if you're going to contest, then why not be the prime minister? But since you're saying you don't want to be the prime minister, right?
Yeah, prime minister carries a heavy burden. You have to work very hard. When I was prime minister for the second time, I had to actually work for 18 hours a day. It was terrible. But there are so many things to do that it leaves you exhausted at the end of the day. And I think at my age, that is not the kind of life I could lead.
Yeah, but actually you have done it brilliantly all this while without even having a benchmark or an example to look up to. And you have done it very well, and you've set the bar really high for people like us, the younger generation, to work harder, because I'm starting to think if my boss watches this 18 hours answer interview, he's going to make us work harder after this. But anyways, this is the kind of spirit that you have left for us to follow. Now, Tut, the party wants you to run in the parliament. My question to you is, you're 96-year-old this year, 97 next year. Why can't you, instead of producing 97 prodigies, 97 junior Dr. Mahathir's, skipping prodigy 98? We don't want to go to 98, we skip and then we go there. you know. So why not that instead of this? Because if the party is able to look at a wider and larger scope, they'll be able to see that only you will be able to produce this many prodigies. So why not that?
Well, how do I produce such a, big number of leaders capable of becoming prime minister? It is almost impossible because, as you know, in politics, no educational qualification is needed. You can be totally illiterate, never been to school, but you can still be a part of the government. But then, of course, the capacity of the government will be very limited. So we need a strong government. I noticed that Malaysia will remain quite stable despite the multiracial factor. We were quite stable because the government party was so strong. It had a 2/3 majority that any hopping out of the government would not bring the government down. And therefore the government becomes stable. But if we are trying to figure out how to have so many candidates, and candidates are very ambitious. They will sabotage each other. So you will get, a government that is weak and incapable of really running the country.
But like I suggested, you don't have to produce 96 prime ministers, but people like you, the ones who can function like you, work like you, think like you, and have conversations with world leaders like how you do it, and you have them not just in Malaysia. I'm not talking about just in Malaysia. I'm suggesting something along those lines. Like by 15 years ago, we should have already had a Institute of Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, where there are young leaders who are able to, not young leaders, anyone who can just join and participate in the institute and become a student and grow to aspire to one day become a leader, not just a prime minister, and there are Malaysians, not just in Malaysia, they are all over the world. And if such an institute like this, if you had established it 10, 15 years ago, I guess by now it should be at least in 3 different parts of the world. And there are Malays in those parts of the world, Malaysian Indians, Malaysian Chinese. So don't you think this would be the sweetest retirement package or the sweetest retirement deal for you? Instead of, again, you're going to go back in parliament, should you win, 18 hours or not, we don't know, but you seem to be still working from day to night. I mean, we are having that interview really early this morning. So something along those lines in the pipeline, maybe, if you had maybe thought of?
Yeah, but a leader is not just myself identifying the person. He must be accepted by the followers. Even in a party, maybe some people most of the people would support me. But if somebody else takes the place, there will be a split in the party. There will be some who are happy that there is a new candidate. There will be others who are not happy because they think that's the wrong candidate. So when you have multiple talents in a party, you find difficulty in finding one person who is supported by all, or at least by the biggest majority. So that is why they feel it easier if just to focus on me, because I have been in politics a long time. I have some track record, so it's easy to find him. But if I were to name another person, or the party was to choose another person, it will result in a split in the party.
Okay, but are they not seeing that you are 96 years old and you need your... No, we're not asking you to retire. Like I personally will never tell you to, please don't, you need to retire and be with the grandchildren. I would never say such a thing because I think that you would still be able to contribute so much to leaders and upcoming talents. But maybe, you are saying that they want you to run. I'm saying they will also want you to run as a PM, So why can't they not be selfish and let you rest, but while still being in the background and assisting. And have you proposed such an idea to them to say that this is what I can offer now?
Well, I have mentioned that sometime I must go, whether it is due to sickness or even death, I will not be around. So they need to have another person who is going to top the party structure, president or prime minister. Well, you can call them by whatever name. But the thing is that none has shown experience. None has experience as prime minister. So when they start comparing this with me, of course, they find that the new candidate has got not the same kind of experience that they know and they can trust. So, well, if I'm not contesting, so they will have to find somebody else to become prime minister. And so even if I am around, but I don't become the prime minister, it is still possible for me to be a kind of consultant for the party. Whenever they are facing some problems, they can ask me about ideas and all that. That kind of service I can give, because it doesn't involve going to office every day and working long hours and all that.
Okay, so does that mean Pajuang still does not have a prime minister candidate yet, or maybe they already have it and it's you?
Well, when I'm not around, they have to find a leader.
That is, we're not going to, Malaysians are not going to talk about that time for a long time to come. But we want to know now, does Pajuang have a prime minister candidate?
Yes, I think there are obvious leaders in Pajuang, and we'll have to try them out.
Okay.
You know, no other party also has the experience of becoming prime minister. The only one with the experience, I think, is not acceptable for various reasons. So Malaysia must realize that we have to give others a chance to lead the country. And of course, if you undermine him, you hop to other parties and overthrow him, of course that is going to be disruptive. But I hope that the people will accept a leader for the country, not a leader for the party alone.
Okay. Thank you for your answer on the subject of Prime Minister and Malaysian politics. So now let me just switch to the other side of the world. Where does a frequent change of government or shift of power in Southeast Asia is not really as good as how it works in Europe, like almost just about a couple of days ago. In Sweden, Magdalena Andersson was sworn in as the first female prime minister. And she was voted in the parliament. 7 hours later, she resigned because one of the party member, a coalition member party, had pulled out because they were not happy with the minority government that she has worked or deal with. Just a week later, yesterday, she was appointed again as prime minister, and she's already got a cabinet member with 22 ministers only. A country, Sweden, has got 22 ministers. 10 of them are females, 1 transgender. So Sweden did not only just have its first female prime minister, it also has its first transgender prime minister looking into educational portfolio. So how come they seem so stable? Whenever things like this happen in Asia, we immediately have economic impact and this, and investors are pulling out. Why does it work so well in Europe and not Southeast Asia?
And they have a different culture.
Okay.
And they invented democracy, for example, and they can elect a government that can rule a country even for one whole term. The failure among these new democracies, including Malaysia, is that realizing that democracy allows anybody to try and become the prime minister has resulted in many candidates, and they undermine each other. So you find that a good leader is not easy to come by. On the other hand, you need to let a leader stay on for enough time to show his ability. But with party hopping and all that, he will not be a strong leader. For example, when I was Prime Minister for the first time, I had the backing of 2/3 of the people in Parliament. So I was very strong. But now they have a majority of only two, which means that if two persons opt out, then the government will fall. So they will be busy with politics, trying to sustain their position rather than attending to the nation or coming up with ideas and plans for the nation. So the succeeding Prime Minister will have a tough time. First, he will have a very small majority. He's always threatened. And then he will have to focus more on the party politics rather than on the government. And the government will become very weak.
Good. I understand in Malaysia there are ministers and prime ministers, and everyone seems to have a whole number of offices, not offices as in officers, special officers, political strategists, political officers. So how are they not able to divide a prime minister or a minister? How are they not able to divide their time and let the tasks be carried out by these officers or officers? I wanted to say minions, but yeah, officers. Why not? And then they can still focus on their governing the country. Like you said, if they are very shaky, 1 or 2% is about to pull out. What is the function? What are the functions of all these officers? Please let us know, because I see easily about 10 or 11 officers always around you in your photographs when you're walking into Parliament and all that. Are they all not tasked to handle these kind of situations for the Prime Minister?
There is a tendency for all the ministers to ask for the support of the Prime Minister because he wants to be in the good books of the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister finds himself very powerful because he is the only one who can make a decision. And because of this, the Prime Minister sometimes abuse their power because of the need to help the party stay in the government, because the government is very weak. You lose 2 members and the government is down. So the situation in Malaysia is quite different at this moment than when we had the first coalition government with a very big majority. See, that is why there is this difference between Asian democracies and European democracy. European democracies accepts the choice of the people, but in Asia, almost invariably, if somebody wins the election, they will charge that person of cheating and all that, and they generally cause instability in the government. And this occupies the time of the Prime Minister. How to stay as Prime Minister with so many people, attacking you, both from your party and also from other parties.
I guess this is not something that you experienced when you were the Prime Minister for the first time. Or maybe there were, it's just that we didn't have 3G and 4G connectivity to get to know about all this, which is something that I remember that you did highlight prior to resigning as the first time as a Prime Minister. So you controlled it well back then, and there were not needs for many political parties to spur out. So my next question, how do you see the political parties' future in this country? Like now we have UMNO, and from UMNO there was PKR. It came from UMNO, and then there's Bersatu. There's also like Party Perkasa right now. There is a former Unity Minister, the Senator Vedamuthi has started his own party also. Prior to that, they had Indra. So there are a lot of political parties right now in Malaysia, and now everybody seems to be wanting to be a political party leader, because that constitutes you to be in the position to be a candidate or prime minister, correct? So, where do you see the future of political parties in Malaysia? Let's start with Pajuang, the future of Pajuang.
Well, Pajuang is a Malay party. Why is it a Malay party? Because its main opposition is UMNO, which is also a Malay party. And Malays generally do not want to vote for a non-Malay party. So that's why Pajuang has to be a Malay party. But of course, we cannot form a Malay government. It has to be a multiracial government. That will have to come later. We may, for the election, we may have electoral pact, or at the end of the election, when we don't have enough people, we can then form coalition post-election. It's not like the BN. BN is a coalition prior to election. So they can actually put up just one candidate. But here, at the election, they are contesting against each other, but no one has won, so they have to come together. So that is not a very strong government. Whereas in the case of BN, during the 5 times I led BN, we invariably get a 2/3 majority. When you have a 2/3 majority, you are not afraid of being overthrown, because if one party leaves, we still have enough people to go on becoming the government. So people see this as an opportunity to become prime minister. It doesn't need anybody with any special qualification. They think, well, if he can become prime minister, so can we. So everybody has now got the ambition. It's a question of whether you can get enough support or not. So because of that, everybody forms a party of its own. And then they don't even have any special objective or anything. It's just about becoming prime minister. And so because of this, the voters are split up into small groups, so much so that no candidate for prime ministership would have enough support from his own party and from other parties. So that is a problem that we are facing today, because people are split up. During the time when I was prime minister for the first time, basically there were only 2 contestants. First is the government, the incumbent, and secondly is the opposition. So it's between the 2. Whether they form coalition or not, it's still between the government and the opposition. But now everybody thinks that he can be the government. It doesn't matter whether he is small or big, but they think that they should have a try. But the end result is split among the voters. And when there is a split among the voters into 5 different groups, or 5, 6 different groups, then you are going to have only small parties which do not have enough support to form the government. So that is a weak government, because that government has now to work with another party and accommodate that party. So the new party will be pulling in different direction. First, the one that has won the biggest number of seats will lead and find another party to join to achieve majority, but he is always feeling threatened, because if the partner decides to walk out, then the government will fall. So it's a very weak, unstable government that we have. We are not like the Europeans. Europeans are different because they vote on issues. Here they don't vote on issues, they vote on party. Because it is my party, so I vote for my party. What the party does doesn't matter. even when the party is caught stealing money and doing all kinds of things which are wrong. But it is my party. They have slogans like, why should you be ashamed? This is our leader.
That's right.
And see, that kind of thinking now permeates the electorate. And the worst part of it, of course, is that sometimes the people are fed up. They don't want to vote. When they don't want to vote, it is like voting for the worst party. The party that is most corrupt, they will bring out their people to vote because they will pay. And when they do that, and people who want a clean government, they do not vote, then of course the winning party will be the kleptocrats and the like.
So, Tun, since you mentioned that the Europeans are very issue-centric, issue-based, they vote for issues and not just for the parties. Are you instilling that kind of a culture within Pajuang for the future generation to follow suit?
Well, in Pajuang, we must instill in them a feeling that they are not contesting for their own selves, they are contesting for the party. If the party doesn't get enough seats, then we cannot form the government. So each person has already been told that if he is not chosen, he must also support the party. Because in any constituency, there may be 2 or 3 potential leaders. We can't put up 3 for the candidate, we can only put up 1. So when we put up 1 candidate, the other 2 must support that candidate, whatever may be their feelings. They are not chosen, but they must support. And we ask the leaders at least that they should accept this, that it is not their future that is important, it is the party's future. And the party's future requires unity. So most of the Pajuang members understand that they want to support whoever is chosen as candidate, they will support. It doesn't matter who, because these are people from Pajuang.
Okay, so these are the principles that Pajuang is laying out straightforward to the members,
Yeah.
new coming on board members, right? Okay, Tun, now we are leaving this subject about politics and the European market. We're coming back to Malaysia. Have you heard of Teema? Something that was very popular in the Day One Rakyat, not where it's supposed to be popular, but it was very popular there, discussed among people who I believe are not even consuming such beverages. What are your thoughts on that entire fiasco?
Well, when a certain thing is identified as religion, people are in a state of uncertainty. If you don't support, they will accuse you of not contributing to the religion. If you support, then you have the problem of other races feeling it is a bad decision. So you are torn between these two. Actually, there are some people who are going to add more to the religion than insisted upon by religion. They come up with ideas which they put up as a religious issue, but actually it's not religion. For example, PAS. PAS declared that UMNO is not Muslim.
That's right.
You see, they have no right to do that. But then, because they say this is Islam, most Muslims find it difficult to go against. So they also submit and they don't say anything. Even the religious people who knows that this is not Islamic, they dare not say anything, because if you say something that can be interpreted as being anti-Islam, then you get hammered. So we find the duty of muftis of each state is to advise the Sultan. But the mufti never advised the Sultan whether what PAS says is true or not. Because if they say it is not true that this decision by PAS is against religion, they're going to be hammered by PAS. And they don't want to be hammered by PAS. They want to, hold their posts as religious advisors, but give no advice.
I see. Okay. Now, Tun, now is where it's going to get interesting. Because some say there are words on the streets already. Okay. It starts with limiting the sales of alcohol, gambling. Next will be what they eat and what the non-Muslims are supposed to dress and conduct themselves like. Now, some say this is how it starts. Okay. If you were a non-Muslim or a non-Bumi here in Malaysia and these are coming towards you, how would you respond if you were a non-Muslim in Malaysia?
Yeah, we would try to fight for your own race, but on the other hand, your partner may be from the same race and your partner may not support you. Then, of course, you get a problem. It is you have no choice but at least to give a good opinion, not a good opinion, but to say that you support. But at heart, you don't support. For example, this Teema thing, most Malays do not support. Because Teema is about tin, not about the name. But this religious party makes it out to be a religious issue. And when they make it out to be a religious issue, then you embarrass all those people who do not think it is a religious issue. See, because all along we see that Muslim parties tend to add more to Islam than is necessary. And see, there are many things that they can add on that is not in the Quran. It doesn't say that Muslims must stop non-Muslim from drinking. It doesn't say. So why should you stop the sale? You see, because in Islam is clearly said that to you, your religion, to us, our own religion. To you, you do the thing, what is required by your religion, and we do what is required by our religion. There is no conflict. You see, but they create a conflict for political reason. You see, well, Teema, we want to see how many people say it is all right. Then they are not Islamic. And everybody is frightened because if you say that this is not an Islamic issue, then they will play that up and say how you do not support an Islamic issue. That is the kind of thing.
And these things in the political climate in Malaysia, they really trickle all the way up and down. Is it like are politicians really that worried that if they had not voiced out, their religious practice will be tarnished? Is this really the case in Malaysia? Adults behaving this way just to please one another?
Yeah, it depends on the support of the people. You know, it is a democracy. You do not say something that will lose you the support. And if you know that most of your supporters are Muslim and they agree with this statement, and then we find it difficult to say no. So it is an embarrassment. You are given no choice but to support. And so it seems that more and more things are identified as being forbidden by Islam. And then if you don't follow, you will lose support. So all the time you have an eye on the supporters. But if you say something that your supporters believe is religious, you say that it is not, then you're going to lose popularity at the election.
So it is really a very pressuring game being in the politics, especially in Malaysia. Just to add up, would you say it's difficult to be in a democratic situation in a multiracial country, or will it be easier in a country that just has one or two religions? Which will be easier?
Well, multiracial country is different from a single ethnic country. But Malaysians generally are very tolerant. You know, in other countries, Muslim countries, if they don't agree with you, they become violent. They even kill. But in Malaysia, we may disagree between people of different religion, but we are not violent. We don't go to the streets and demonstrate. We just voice our feeling through whatever media that is available. So in Malaysia, although I am quite sure non-Muslims are afraid, but if they are afraid, all they have to do is not to vote for the religious party. Nobody will know who they are voting for. So that is when they express their true feelings. But publicly, they don't say anything.
Okay. So now, Tun, speaking of tolerant, I believe Malaysians are very tolerant, and I completely agree with you. Not just in other Muslim countries, I think other religious-based countries also with other religions that they are practicing there. They're not so tolerant, and like you said, they do kill and they do go out to harm, right? So now to the question about tolerance. This would be my final question to you, Tun, and something that I've been wanting to ask you for a very, very long time. And a lot of people have asked the same question, but have not been projecting out to you. So I've had the honor to interview you today. So I'm going to take a long-winded turn and come back and ask you, back then, while your siblings were not financially intuitive, you had to sell balloons, coffees, and bananas to save up as your pocket money. Your sisters were not allowed to enroll in the school your late father had set up. You started out as a commoner in life, graduated as a doctor, a medical practitioner who became the prime minister. You worked your way up to the corridors of powers. You even built some of those corridors of powers. You moved and shaped some of those things, and you served as the country's prime minister twice. Coming to tolerance, you're not really appreciated these days. You're rebuked, you're disrespected, and you're 97 next year. Your country turns 95. Malaysia owes you so much, but why do you still do it? Why do you still do it for this country when they do not have anything to give to you anymore?
This is my country. I was born and brought up here in Malaysia. I know I am a Malay and a citizen of this country. I love my country. So if there is anything I can do that is good for the country, I will. See, I'm not thinking about myself, my own comfort and all that. I think that if people want me to serve, I will serve. But of course, at my age, I should retire. But I'm also conscious that if you retire and you do nothing, you lose capability very quickly. For example, you cannot remember things, you cannot argue, you cannot talk, you cannot write. So I prefer a very active life that gets me involved with many things. That is not about me, but about the country. So for as long as I can serve, I will serve.
Even if they do not give you the right respect or the treatment that you're supposed to deserve as a former prime minister, as a statesman, you still continue to do this for your country?
Well, even when I was prime minister, I didn't have the support of all the people. I get the support of only 2/3 of the people. Those 2/3, I think, they are very polite. They don't say nasty things about me. But in politics, you will always have enemies. And for your enemies, they will never see anything good about you. They create a story, like saying that, oh, I help my children. There is no basis for that, because during my time, I didn't even allow my children to go into politics. I didn't allow my children to have any business with the government. They can do it outside the government and even outside the country. That is the restriction I pay on them, the way I manage things. And my children, had never been rich, but they are still being accused of having a lot of money, that I had helped them and all that. Also, I'm said to have cronies. When I help everyone without discriminating against them, they still say I favor my children. You can deny, but they will continue to say, because they want me to come down, because these are the opposition. They will have to demonize you, to make you appear bad in the eyes of the people, so that people will not support me. Even to say that, wow, you are too old, you better retire. They know that I have served until I was 90, 94, 95. I was still serving, and I don't know whether people think I have done well or not, but the fact is that I was working. But they still say, oh, he's too old. He's already suffering from senile dementia. All that thing is said about me by people who are opposed to me, because they want to bring me down. If they say I'm good, then they can't bring me down.
From your experience, how many of those people who've said those things about you have passed on before you? How many, roughly? How many?
Many. Most of them are already, well, incapacitated, or they are no longer here, no longer with us. But their successors are still around, and they were implanted with this idea that I was corrupt. And they believe it. I mean, he has power. I'm quite sure that he must have abused it. So even if you prove, you ask them, please show how I was corrupt. They don't have any evidence at all. But that does not stop them from saying, I'm corrupt.
Well, I guess each to its own, and you have come this far and you have surpassed all of them, and you're still here, you're still going to be here. Tun, I would like to thank you so much for your time with us at BBTV, and we would hope to speak with you again in the future on various other subjects, maybe not political, maybe about other, lifestyle issues, or even your hobbies like horse riding, right? And that brings us to the end of our segment. Thank you once again, Tun. It's been an honor from us at BBTV. We will catch up with you sometime in the future. Once again, if given the opportunity, we will leave you to your day now. That is all from me. This was Big Live segment with the former Prime Minister of Malaysia, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. I'm Mohana for BBTV. You have a great day ahead.